So when you started the syndication company, how did you convince your investors, or how did you make connection with your investors and brought them at to the same level of thinking process that there is much more than the corporate America?
It was, a combination of talking to people that I was working with. So that was the benefit of having a full-time corporate job is, you'd see somebody by the water cooler and they'd ask what you're up to, and I'd tell them what I was doing in real estate. And, some people would just, their eyes would glaze over because it wasn't for them. But then there were a few people that said, I've
Oh,
been interested in investing in real estate, but how do you do that? Isn't real estate too expensive in California? So some of my first investors were people that I work with who were just intrigued with the idea.
this is a Real Estate Vibe Show, and I'm your host, Vinki Loomba. As a real estate investor and a fund manager, I'm always excited to explore the world of real estate opportunities with you and for you. And today I have joined by my good friend, Todd Sulzinger. Did I say that right?
You
Sulzinger?
sure did. Yeah.
Okay.
Way better than most. So good job.
Okay. Sulzinger, he's a founder and CEO of Blue Elm Investments. Welcome to the show, Todd.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Vinky. I'm looking forward to our chat.
Awesome. So a little bit about Todd. From a high-flying corporate finance career in Silicon Valley, Todd shifted gears to create a firm that offers investors unique passive investment opportunities in real estate, including apartments, mobile home parks, and RV parks. He's also a co-author of the Amazon bestseller Success Habits of Superachievers and leads a Silicon Valley Real Estate Investors Meetup. So today we're gonna be getting some insight on Todd's journey, and we're gonna learn some tips and tricks from him about how to scale your investment portfolio for the long-term success. And I know you co-authored the book, co-authored a chapter on habits, right? And habits are the building block of our daily lives, and it, quietly shapes our character or our persona, who we are. And good habits propels us towards the success, and some, negative habits, they just kind of holds us back. So, sometimes I think like there's no good or bad. Habits are just habits. And then we should learn actually how to break habits, because breaking habits is like breaking your limitations and then getting to the next level in your life. That's the way I look at it. So with that in mind, against this backdrop of the transformative power of habits, can you share the journey that led you from the corporate finance in Silicon Valley to founding your own company, Blue Elm Investments? I mean, what you have to change or to get to that level?
Sure. Yeah, well, I share a little bit of that story in the Success Habits book is that, I did not come from a family with a big entrepreneurial background. My dad worked for Lockheed for 40 years, didn't have a college degree, got in with a great company, stayed there for his whole career, and retired with a great pension. And so that was my role model is like, oh, that's the way you do it. But when I actually did a couple summer internships at Lockheed while I was in college and just got the feeling I didn't want to go work for a big company and started out after I graduated from San Jose State working for a couple different smaller startups. And that world seemed more interesting to me. And, working and living in Silicon Valley, there's always the sense of, when's the next opportunity? Might you get to go work for this company that's going to go through a big IPO and you're going to make millions of dollars. And so I just kind of started living and working in that environment. And after doing that for quite a few years, working for some companies that did okay, went through a couple IPOs, but also worked for companies that were it seemed like they were can't miss, like great board of directors, great product. The company was growing and then ended up going out of business, getting sold, went through companies that went through multiple rounds of layoffs. So it's not every company that has these wild success stories. So after having that happen a few times, it just made me think, do I want to keep doing this, keep jumping from job to job, hoping to find a big IPO that's going to have a big payoff? And around that same time, I met a neighbor of mine in San Jose. He was an older gentleman, very much this millionaire next door type of guy who just became very mild mannered, didn't dress great, had a kind of an old beat up car. But the more I got to know him, the more I found out about this real estate empire that he built. He would just casually talk about, oh, I've got this house next door I need to go take a look at. I've got this shopping center I need to go run over and see. And I kind of learned over time that he had slowly built up this big real
Right.
estate empire. And I thought, God, I wonder if there's some way I can do that. And one of the hard things about trying to do that in California is real estate is very expensive here. It's a very tenant friendly state. So I think that held me back for a while, thinking like, how is this possible? And I'm just trying to buy my own house and live in this environment. And it's kind of through that process that I ended up buying, through several people I met when I started going to meetups and listening to podcasts and meeting a lot of different people. Ended up buying some single family homes in the Dallas Fort Worth market as kind of my first entry into investing in real estate directly.
So you invested as a passive investor or?
This was actually it was active through a guy that I knew who I met through you're probably familiar with the real estate guys, Robert Helms and Russell Gray. They used to live here in the Bay Area, and they would have local meetups, and I would go to those every month. And met a gentleman named David Campbell through that meetup, and ended up going to Texas, doing a bus tour and just touring neighborhoods and looking at different houses. And it was actually through him that I bought a couple brand new homes that he was sort of building to sell to investors. So before build to rent was even a term, he was building these homes for investors.
So these are the single family homes, right?
They were, yes, yes.
So after talking to your neighbor, you were intrigued about this real estate investment. And then what was the next step? Did you start going to the meetups? How did you find the meetups? And how did you meet these guys who helped you get into your first investment?
Yeah, I did. I started to go to meetups, started reading books, and there was a hesitation in the beginning because again, coming from a corporate background, you just think, okay, like this is the way to make money. How could I possibly do it in real estate? But that was one of the first big things I think that I learned is just to, take a chance, go get outside your comfort zone, meet people who are like-minded and and thinking about investing in a different way. And it was like slowly through that process when I first heard about people investing outside of close to where they lived. I just thought like that's impossible. How can you own properties, not be able to drive by them and touch them and see them every day? But after managing these properties or having a property manager manage these properties in Dallas for a few years, I found out it really was possible. I found a good property manager. They do regular property inspections. I would travel to Dallas periodically to attend real estate conferences. And I would drive by the houses and it was no big deal. I would, maybe like drive a couple hours all around to look at the different houses, drive by, it wasn't burned down. There was a car in the driveway and I'd go on my way. And I thought, wow, okay, it's no different me having these houses in Dallas as it would be if I had them, 10 minutes from where I live. So it kind of opened my eyes to the idea of being able to successfully invest remotely and not just have it be in your backyard.
You said one thing, everybody says that, mingle with the like-minded people. So since you co-authored the book Habits, so I just wanted to do a little bit on the mindset over here and wanted to
Mhm.
understand from you, because this term, like-minded, everybody use that all the time. What exactly it means to you?
Yeah, like, in this case, when I started to go to real estate meetups, I think I was starting to interact with people who weren't just, didn't just have 9 to 5 jobs, and whether it was working for a bigger company or working for a startup where you think there might be an IPO potential, it was people who just thought differently. They were looking at investing outside the stock market, right? Which is kind of crazy. I just kind of grew up in this world of no, you just start a 401k and you invest in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. So it was kind of hearing and learning from people who were just, thinking differently. And so that's when I was attracted to that mindset. So it was helpful going to meetups and reading books about real estate investing that was different than kind of things that I would talk with about anybody maybe I went to college with or anybody who I was working with at the time who those people 90% of them are just in the mindset of nope, I just like get up in the morning, go to work, come home, and like that's my day, and I just invest in the stock market, and that's all I do.
So you said I like their mindset. You liked it because they think differently, right? That's what you were saying.
Hmm.
And then because you were opening yourself up to something different and you wanted to pivot a little bit, right? That's where this shift happens. Otherwise, most
Hmm.
of the time you say, I go mingle with the like-minded people, but you come home, you stay in your own mind. So nothing really happens, right?
Hmm.
So only
Yes,
things
right. Hmm.
happen when you open yourself up a little bit, you wanted to see how other people are thinking, how other people are processing the information, and you bring those traits into your life, right? So,
Right.
how did that happen for you, that shift, that pivot?
Yeah, well, I think part of it was when I went on this field trip to Dallas, it was with people who were, to take that step. It's one thing to go to a meetup and say, hey, this person does single family homes in Dallas and they're doing a bus tour and you can check things out. Okay, so that's one thing to hear, but it's another thing to say, hey, I'm going to actually book a flight. I'm going to take a few days off work and I'm going to go do this thing. And then to get in that environment and be around 10, 15 other people, some of who were similar to me who had never done it before. Other people had done it in different markets, and just to all of a sudden kind of really learn and start to ask questions about how did they do it? Like, what mistakes did they make? Did they feel comfortable managing properties, far from where they lived? What was they like about different markets across the U.S.? So for me, it was just when I started to get around those people who were really doing things differently, and some people were 100% into real estate. Some people were just using it as a way to diversify, and they were investing in real estate and in the stock market.
Interesting. You mentioned that you started as an active investor. Did you syndicate those deals or did you go 100% yourself?
Those were all myself. Yes. Mhm.
You went yourself first. And
Right.
later on, you got into the mobile home parks and RV parks. And those are those syndicated deals?
Those were, yes, yes. I through the real estate guys, they do a syndication training, and I went to the first one back in 2015, and yeah, I was came home gung ho. That's really what I want to do, and then life gets in the way, work gets busy, and I didn't do anything about it. Still had my single family homes, was looking at other things to invest in. I ended up going back to that same seminar 3 years later in 2018 and thought, okay, if I'm really going to do this, I've got to actually take action. So I would just encourage people if they don't give up, right? I kind of went 3 years between seminars for the same thing, but still always had in the back of my mind that it was something that I wanted to do. And it was after that, going to that seminar again in 2018, that I really decided to found Blue Elm Investments and start a syndication company.
So when you started the syndication company, how did you convince your investors or how did you make connection with your investors and brought them at to the same level of thinking process that there is much more than the corporate America?
It was, a combination of talking to people that I was working with. So that was the benefit of having a full-time corporate job is, you'd see somebody by the water cooler and they'd ask what you're up to, and I'd tell them what I was doing in real estate. And, some people would just, their eyes would glaze over because it wasn't for them. But then there were a few people that said, I'm
Oh,
been interested in investing in real estate, but how do you do that? Isn't real estate too expensive in California? So some of my first investors were people that I work with who were just, intrigued with the idea. So it was from those meetings, and then also I was going to a lot of meetups, and similarly, just there were people that go to those meetups to learn, but they also go to potentially meet people to invest with, and that's so some of my investors came from those early meetups I went to as well.
Yeah, I love those water cooler chats. I miss those because I come from the corporate background too. Because deals do happen over there at the water cooler. I remember those chats. But how did you differentiate yourself? How did you create a competitive edge? Because it's a very competitive industry, and at the same time, everybody wants to have a piece of the pie and wanting to make a place for themselves.
Mhm.
So, any tips or tricks that you can share with us?
Well, I think what maybe differentiated me from some other people, especially in going to meetups, was that when I first started, I decided to focus on mobile home parks, and that was a differentiator because people this is again back in 2018, 19, they were maybe a little bit familiar with them. They were maybe as popular as they are now, but it was for people who were maybe looking outside of apartments or single family homes. So when I would go to meetup, sometimes I'd be able to present talking about mobile home parks, or just have side conversations. And I think that kind of got people intrigued about, like, how do these work? Like, do you own the homes? Do you own the land? Like, so just it got people intrigued because people had might be a little bit familiar with them. They may have driven by them on their way to work, but didn't quite understand how they were similar and how they were different from apartments, for example.
Yeah, so but why mobile home parks? Let me ask you that question too.
Yeah, so that was kind of also from a differentiating standpoint. When I first was learning about syndication and working with other people who were kind of starting the journey or had been in the business for a long time, there were a lot of people in the apartment space, and I felt that that might be crowded, and I wouldn't be able to differentiate myself from other operators who had been in the business a long time, and maybe were offering something similar to what other people that I was meeting might have received information about. And historically, the returns were just a little bit higher, typically, like in a particular market compared to apartments. Um, when I started, I felt that it was a great way to kind of provide affordable housing as well, because it's mobile home parks are a little unusual in that they're one of
Mhm.
the only asset classes where there's hardly any new inventory being built, just because people really don't, cities and governments might say, yeah, we want more affordable housing, and somebody says, hey, I'll develop a mobile home park in town, and then the city is like, oh well, maybe not, because people don't want to kind of quote trashy trailer park in their community. But there's so many mobile home parks across the country that aren't in good shape, that
Mhm.
need an investment. Otherwise, they might get torn down and redeveloped for something else. So when I started too, there was a kind of an affordable housing component that I wanted to be able to take these and improve them.
Nice. I think that was a really good why you started that. And we were talking earlier before the podcast we started recording. You mentioned that you co-author a book,
Mhm.
Success Habits of Super Achievers. So tell me about that. How did you get to write that book?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I was able to write that book through Kyle Wilson, who he's was Jim Rohn's 18-year business partner. He was a
Mhm.
big personal development. Um, he put on a lot of seminars for Dennis Waitley and Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar, and a lot of other people. And I joined his mastermind group probably in 2019, and that was another kind of great example of kind of getting around like-minded people. This mastermind is a combination of people. It's got a kind of heavy real estate focus, just in terms of the way people meet Kyle. But it's got a lot of people who are they're business owners in a wide variety of businesses, but are really all focused on personal development. And Kyle puts together book projects, and the Success Habits of Super Achievers was one of them. And I thought it'd be a great one to take part of. It's co-authored with some other great people like Dennis Waitley and Darren Hardy and other people that I admire. And Yeah, so it was a great opportunity just to kind of share a little bit about some of my story, my journey, some of the things that we mentioned here on the call. and talking about some of the things I try to do on a regular basis to kind of keep me on track, keep me focused, and to build good habits.
Interesting. So, can you share with us a sneak peek into one of your favorite habits or stories from the book?
Sure, sure. Well, yeah, one of the things that I started doing several years ago was I use a book called The 5 Minute Journal. And I started that because I had always read or heard from different people like, oh, journaling is really helpful. It gets your ideas out there, it gets, it's a good way to kind of memorialize things, kind of get your
Mhm.
juices flowing. And I tried it before and I never could find a way to journal, I don't know, like the right way or to do it consistently. But there's a book called The 5 Minute Journal, and it's the idea is as some things you do 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening, and it relates to like things starting the day, things you're grateful for. How can you make today great? And then finishing off the day with like three amazing things that happened to you, and maybe something you could have done better. So it's really a great tool because, like for example, saying like, "What am I grateful for?" Like when you first start doing the journal, you might things like, what are you thankful for? Oh, I'm thankful for my family, thankful for my friends. But when you do it every day, then you really have to think of, maybe just like little small things that you're grateful for. Like I'm thankful for this warm cup of coffee. I'm thankful for like a beautiful sunny day outside. So starting today with kind of a gratitude mindset is really great. And then similarly, when in this 5 minute journal, when you end the day, thinking about three amazing things that happened to you. And I think that's one of the things we don't often do is really think about, if you kind of have a checklist, oh, did I get everything done that I want to do? Did I have a successful day? You might think about ways you didn't or could have done better. But to really finish the day and think like what three amazing things happened today? I mean, I might write tonight, like, had an amazing call with Vinki on a podcast. Or, somebody was like really nice to me at the coffee shop or something. So to kind of begin the day and end the day with positive things that happened, I think is just a great thing that just compounds over time in terms of the way you, wake up and approach the day and the way you live your life.
That's true. Like a scrum master, right? When you're doing the project management and this have your
Yeah.
scrum meetings, like a 5 minute kind of thing. I'll kind of check on you. What have you done? What you missed that you can take on the next morning and start your day from there. And gratitude is very important, because
Hmm.
that like helps you go a long way. That's the way I have learned in my life too. Gratitude is very, very important that we take everything for granted, you know
Hmm.
and we should the way I look at it, I think we should be thankful for every breath we take, every inhale or exhale that we have, because one time we exhale and we forget to inhale, boom, we're gone, right? And that's the most important thing that we should be thankful for, that our mind remembers when to exhale or when to inhale. If we forget that moment, everything is over, right?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, and I've been, reading a little bit about Stoicism recently, and there is that idea about it as well. Is like, just to be thankful, to wake up in the morning and think, wow, it was not guaranteed that I was going to wake up this morning, but I did. So I need to make today as great as it could
The
possibly
best
be
possible.
because I was lucky enough to like open my eyes and wake up in the morning.
That's true. Another day to redefine yourself.
Right.
I'm writing a book as well, because the way I look at it, every moment you get a chance to redefine yourself.
Mhm.
Every moment you get a chance to rewrite your story. But the problem with our mindset is, or with our grooming is, we are so accustomed to our old limitation, our patterns that we follow all along our life. And then we're just carrying all that baggage. We don't want it to let go, right? And we just
Mhm.
thinking that, oh, some magic wand is gonna just go around us and all of a sudden everything is gonna be hunky-dory. Not necessarily, you might be really lucky it could happen, to somebody, but most of the time you have to see where you are, what you're doing, and try to get actively involved in every action that you take. And then every moment, use that moment to redefine yourself, take the right action that could propel you to the next level.
Yeah, right. Because you can't change the past, what's gone before
Mm-mm.
you. So yeah. So yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the book. I'm interested.
Oh, me, it just in works. I'm just thinking about that, learning, putting my experiences together.
Yeah.
Because, everybody has so many experiences in their life. Everybody sees life differently. You take the same thing, give it to three people, 10 people, everybody will have different opinion on the thing. Why is
Yes.
that? Because their upbringing, their patterns, their limitations, their grooming, how they were brought up, all the family values, everything plays in. Not everybody sees everything with the same set of
Hmm.
glasses or the same lens. And it's important to learn everybody's perspective because that helps you increase your perception. You have more holistic picture about everything and
Hmm.
not just like, limited. Oh my God, I just do this corporate job and I'm just stuck here. I'm destined to do this all my life. I'm going to retire at 65. I'm going to get my Social Security and I'm done with my life. No,
Right.
there is a chance every moment for you to redefine your life, figure out where you want it to go. So basically, that's what, in nutshell, I'm thinking.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. That's a great topic. That sounds very inspirational.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So let's go back to our real estate because we both are in real estate. So what do you see in your crystal ball for the next couple of years? How the real estate market is gonna turn out, which way it's gonna go? Because some people they're still underwriting their deals at 4 or 5 cap, but I
Hmm.
hear other people talking about in 2 years you're gonna see the cap rates going to 8 and 10%. So are those deals gonna hurt the people who are trying to get into now, the distressed deals?
Yeah, well, it's going to be really interesting to see. I know when I was at the Best Ever conference last year in Salt Lake City, the mantra was like survive till 25, right? So if you've got deals that, if you've got debt in place that isn't going to come due and you don't have to sell, it's like, let's like get through 24 and see how things shake out in 25. So I know there's been a lot of talk about the distressed real estate, and we've seen, deals. The Texas market and Arizona market that have gone sideways and haven't be given back to the banks. I think that some of that distress is still going to happen. I think throughout 2024, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think if there's good pieces of real estate, there's not going to be a fire sale because those are always going to be desirable assets no matter what. But I think it seems like pricing is starting to come a little bit more in line. Like when interest rates first started to creep up, the people on the selling side, they were not adjusting to the fact that the purchasers were going to have to borrow at a higher interest rate. So some of that's starting to shake out, um, but not in all markets. And it's interesting. I live in Silicon Valley, and I'll see apartments, some even duplexes, fourplexes, and then 10, 15, 20 unit apartment buildings still trading at 3.5, 4 caps. So I think in those situations, people have cash that they still feel like real estate is a safe investment, and that when things turn around, the value of those properties will go up. I think, at least from what I'm seeing, there's still going to be better deals to be had in late 24, early 25.
Interesting. That's good. I know I can keep on talking to you. We are out of time. Share one golden nugget with my audience.
Well, I see. I think the biggest thing for people is to take action. People who are, if you're thinking about investing in real estate but aren't sure how to do it, you could do it like I did it and try to find a single family home and kind of dip your toe into what it's like to actually own directly, or find a good operator that you trust and want to work with, and if you and put your money out there to work for you passively. But educate yourself as much as possible, but taking action is the key.
Thank you. I love that. Yeah, action is the key because that dictates everything. You can accumulate as much knowledge as much you want, but if you don't take the action, you're always going to be at the fence. That's not good. So this brings us to our rapid fire round. I'm going to ask you 5 questions. You're going to answer in one sentence or one word only. Are you ready?
Yes.
What is one of the most important thing that you have learned in your life, and how did your life change after learning it?
How to invest in real estate.
I like that. Share one good book that you'll recommend to my audience.
Atomic Habits.
Oh, I like that one too.
Mhm.
In one word, what does life mean to you?
Joy.
What is your biggest passion?
Helping people.
Right. If you could turn back in time and talk to your younger self, what would you tell yourself and why?
I would say take more chances
I agree.
because you're
So
young and you've got a long life ahead of you.
that's so true. And life is too short, right? So it's always good to take chances and then see how far can you go. So
Right?
how
I
can
agree.
people reach out to you, Todd?
They can get a hold of me via email. It's Todd, Todd, at Blue Elm Investments. Please feel free to reach out and always happy to talk about real estate and investing. You can sign up for my newsletter at blueelminvestments.com. Yeah, look forward to connecting with everyone.
Thank you, Todd. I really enjoyed chatting with you today.
Likewise.